Welcome to Chaos2Cured podcast with Jeffrey Freed and Kirk Patrick Miller. Today, we want to talk about, at least I would like to talk about, and Jeffrey's already said he's not as familiar with this, but it's a popular thing going around where people talk about manifesting. So, the word to, of course, manifest, your destiny, you picture what you want or something in your life. And a lot of people talk about vision boards where, you take a board and you put it up and you take pictures of the things that you want in your life, whether that's you put a car there, you put the house that you want, the kitchen that you want. And the idea is by putting something out there and actually feeling like you're living that life already, you put an energy out into the world that makes that reality become, well, or I guess that possibility become a reality. So to me, I actually really do feel like there's a lot of things we don't understand. And I don't want to get into some, really way off the scientific path. But we know there's energy in this world. When you play, a note on an instrument or on a speaker, you can feel the sound waves. We know there's a lot out there that we can't see and that we can feel. So, you know, at least to me, I think it's an important concept for people to kind of actually utilize to help find who they want to be. So for me, manifesting is not necessarily all about, at least this is how I work with young ones. I feel a lot of people are kind of lost in terms of knowing who they want to be. And if you write down your goals, and I have never written anything down. Jeffrey and I were talking about this earlier. Like neither one of us have ever really written down goals. There's a couple of things I have written down. There's one thing that I did, and it was pretty much like I forgive myself and I'm deserving of love and of happiness. When I wrote that down, something fundamentally changed. Now, some people might call that manifesting, happiness for myself or a better life. I think a lot of it comes down to what we've talked about in the past, which is neuroplasticity. Once you start thinking a different way, you change everything about yourself. If our mind is the thing that determines what is good and bad, we know we have a brain, and this is a philosophical debate. You have a brain which processes the information. We have our mind, which determines how we perceive that information. How do we take it in? How do we determine what's good, bad, happy, sad? So the moment you start, quote, manifesting, what you're really doing is you're telling your brain, this is what I want. It makes it easier to take steps that are going to make that a reality. So in a lot of ways, you're really kind of setting yourself up for success. So Jeffrey, I mean, have you heard much, about this? I mean, it's a very popular topic,
Yes, I
and it's
have.
been written about. So what
Yeah.
are your thoughts on it? And, um, you can go wherever you want with this. It's a really
All right.
interesting topic.
Yeah, I would say I'm going to take it right back to people on the spectrum versus people not on the spectrum. I believe that most right hemispheric people who can focus really, really well, like most people with autism, that's one of their great strengths, is they can focus way better than other people. And monofocusing, focus on one thing. And they have such great abilities to visualize. The people I work with, they're so good at visualizing that one of the issues is they get lost in their visualization, and they can oftentimes forget which is real and which is a visualization. And that's got a lot of potential, because what you can do with that is utilize that focusing ability to create a daydream that gets you where you want to be. And with these people's ability to visualize, it's got a higher probability of actually coming true. It's three-dimensional visualization too. When you do it, if you're one of these non-typical learners, you just get all of your senses involved. You smell what you want. If it's something like in a restaurant, you taste the food, you visualize what's on the wall, you really get lost in the details, and then you throw into that what you'd hope to accomplish, what you hope to do. And with these incredible folks, I do believe that the probability of actually some of that actually happening, if not all of it, is much higher. It's just another way to use your innate strength, which is the ability to hold images longer because you think in pictures mostly, and your ability to focus. So if I'm a non-traditional learner, I totally will do the manifestation stuff. And the most important thing I can say is the more of your senses you can get involved, the better off and more realistic that the higher the probability that you will be able to manifest it. I totally believe that. It's like people, for example, who have ADD, who don't focus very well, they can't do it. They can't hold the image long enough and they get impatient with it. But man, the people I work with, the people that are high functioning autistic people and dyslexics in particular, people with dyslexia can focus like nobody's business. And they all have great visual minds. And what happens with someone with dyslexia is they're visualizing all the time and they can focus it. And if someone tells them, look into the future, be what you see, what you want to, what you want to be, and you get all your senses involved, I believe that's very powerful. For people who don't visualize so well, like neurotypical people, it's still a nice tool, but it won't have the power of somebody who visualizes real well. What it really is when you manifest is guided visualization. And I am not saying that it has any supernatural outcome. What I am saying is that certain people can do it more with more detail. And if you do it with more detail and you can go back to it and remember your feelings and especially feel the feelings of being successful, you get a much higher probability, in my opinion, than if you can't. And the people that I work with, what they can do is they can just remember, they can tap into the memory anytime they want. So when you're feeling stressed, when you're focusing on something negative like a fear, just go back to that image and focus on that, and that will guide you. That's my
Oh,
take.
absolutely. Well, a lot of times, especially when people are going through school, struggling maybe with social situations, uh, it's an it's a very powerful tool to kind of see who you want to be in 15 years.
Yeah, it's good.
And what happens is that how would that person respond? It completely changes the dynamics because if somebody sees themselves as, you know, I guess a high powered, maybe a executive in a fancy office overlooking a lake, the more detailed they can get, like you said, bring in all those senses. If you can picture that person and let's say somebody comes up on the playground and insults you, well, what would that person do? Are they going to take offense to it? Are they going to throw a temper tantrum? Are they going to lose their calm? No. It makes the idea of how you should act more tangible. And
Exactly.
so, it was always harder for me. And you mentioned ADHD, and I wanted to kind of jump on that because for me, I would get distracted. I would get on one great path and I'd hop off into another, hop onto another, hop onto another
Yeah,
one.
very
It
typical.
was very, very endless. Now, some of that was also mania. So when I was getting manic, of course, I would kind of jump from place to place or get like tons of ideas and follow too many things at once. So, it works from so many different angles. When you said guided visualization, I mean, that's whatever we want to call it. When you can focus in and you can really tangibly see and feel, like you said, smell, get every sense involved, and you can see what you want, suddenly the steps on how to get there become much more clear.
True.
And I think that's actually where the power and manifestation comes in. One, what you just said, two, definitely in changing how you think, because once you see those steps and you go, okay, well, I can't, well, let's say somebody's an adult, right? And they want to become more successful in their career. when they picture that person in the future, honestly, I like 15 years in the future because it's really hard to picture that far in advance. But when somebody does, it's very powerful. But if they picture that, well, are they going to go out drinking every night? Probably not. Are they going to get their work done right away? Probably. It starts shaping who you are. And, you get, I think so many people get sidetracked because they see, they're walking through a forest and it's all misty. You can't really see where you're going. And if everything is an option and you don't know where you're supposed to go, who you're supposed to be, you don't love yourself, you don't appreciate the skills you have, it's literally like walking around blind. You have your hands out and you keep running into things. As soon as you take a deep breath, go inwards, see exactly who you want to be, what that takes, the mist clears and you can just walk there. So I think in a lot of ways, it makes things easier from multiple angles. And had I had someone to kind of help me a little bit with that, it would have helped. Now, there are some things like when I talk about mania, yes, I could have visualized everything, and it's not going to help some of those swings at the time. So, it's not a magic trick. And as you said, is it mystical? There's a whole bunch of things we don't understand in this world. I am very pragmatic. I'm very logical. So it's very hard for me to buy into anything that is, really not touchable. Yeah. So the idea of manifesting was something that I was very resistant to because it's like, no, I don't believe that I can feel good about myself and then that'll start happening. But the more you study neuroplasticity, the more you start going, wait a second, if I want to be in shape, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy. Well, you start going to the gym, you start thinking more positively. And instead of negative self-talk, talking yourself down, you keep finding what you're doing good. Well, guess what? All of that stuff works synergistically and you're a happier person. Well, guess what? Bosses are going to like a happier person. So friends are going to like a happier person. It just opens doors because the person you become is somebody that everybody wants to be successful.
And they
So I
exude
think
you confidence, and that's great too. And
exactly.
there's another thing too. Most of the people that I work with, again, are more right hemisphere dominant, and a lot of them are autistic. They need to know where they're going in order to do anything. If they can see the end, they can do the steps. If they can't see the end, they can't do the steps. So what this does is it points you, it shows you where you're going, it points to that. And when you do stuff, it makes sense. You're moving towards a goal. If not, you really just sort of hang there. And it's the same thing where you're asked to do a bunch of steps, say in algebra, but you don't really know where it's going. You can't do it. At least the people I work with can, and I can't either. But the really nice thing is if you see the end, everything you do that isn't congruent with that, it's much more obvious to you. So it's really good.
Absolutely.
You just to fake it till you make it, and realize that it's not really being dishonest. It's just increasing the probability that you will get there someday. And I love that. I think it's very powerful.
For a long time, it really was something I was very resistive to. And once I needed honestly more of a scientific approach before I kind of started trying. And for me, it makes so much sense once you start kind of really analyzing it. Like, why wouldn't people be trying to do this? And I think a lot of times, we feel rushed. We don't take enough time in our day. And I think the biggest one is a lot of people out there are desperate and they are trying so hard. And so many people don't feel like they deserve anything. And I think the moment you sit back and you start feeling like you do deserve some happiness, you do deserve some, good things in life, it, like you said, I really like your algebra one. When you see like each step, why does it matter? And you see the end result. Okay, this is where I'm going. It's so much easier to comply.
As
So when
opposed
you,
Yeah,
yeah,
as opposed to more linear people who don't really need to know where they're going. They're very logical and step by step. So when they do step by step stuff, they don't really need, they just trust the process will work.
yeah,
And and that's not
you
like
know,
true of most people that I work with.
I think I definitely feel there's more natural parts to this process for some people. And like you said, with the visualization and the things like that, I always was very strong at that aspect.
I
I
bet.
was very poor at writing down a goal, being able to even stay focused long enough to come up with a goal. So a
Me too.
lot of my difficulties were actually getting to that last step. And there are other individuals like, I mean, I can think of my mom instantaneously, or my sister actually, even though she's a very unique one, because I mean she's like left brain and whole brain, right brain, she does it all. But she was very good at following, at least visualizing what she wanted. She always had a strong aspect to that, but she also had the organizational skills to like follow through on steps. And I really lacked a lot of that. So it's a progress, or I mean, everything is a process.
Right.
So, if somebody, I think one of the big things that holds people back when they try to do this is that they expect it to happen and work instantaneously.
Yeah.
There's nothing good that comes instantly. Anybody trying to sell you an instant fix is just
I
honestly kind of lying to you. Yeah. So there's nothing that comes with ease. But this is something that I feel with practice, and you have to stay on it day after day. And that's why the mantras work really well, where people put up on their mirror, you are deserving, you are good. Makes me think of the What About Bob movie with trying to remember. Um, oh, how can I not? He's in Ghostbusters, the main guy.
Aykroyd? I don't know. I don't watch those movies.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. But he's very famous. He's in Space Jam and some other things. But in What About Bob, he is a person with a whole bunch of fears and kind of, you know, I would say a hypochondriac. And so he has this mantra, I am great, I am good, I am wonderful. And he just keeps repeating it over and over again in the morning. That actually helps because it starts your process the right way. So if somebody's feeling down and they're struggling and they want to try the idea of doing this, the first thing is to kind of start picturing who you want to be and really get a clear idea. And like I said, I like 15 years. It's just far enough out. It really makes you stretch. And then I really liked what you said, where you want to put every sense into it. You want to wrap it up in something
That's
that's
key.
very vivid.
Yeah.
And, put a mantra, remind yourself to do it, and then feel good about doing it. If you do anything without being happy, if you do anything without trying to add some sort of play, it doesn't kick in as much. So for me, it's something I believe in. Jeffrey, I loved how you described it.
Thank you.
And for me, it is a very powerful tool, and it's helped me a lot. You can call it what you want. It doesn't have to be manifestation, but it can be goal setting. It can be, a vision of who you want to be. It can be guided visualization. The words don't matter as much as the simple act of really knowing who you want to be so you can see the right way to go. And as soon as that becomes clear, life for me became much easier. It does not mean life is easy. I will make that very clear. It does not mean that everything is smooth sailing. I have very difficult days. We all do. But it has gotten easier. And it does help me manage, I think, the world a little bit better, because the world is very overwhelming to me. So, Jeffrey, do you have anything that you want to add? I know we were going to do kind of a shorter one today, and
That's
I,
fine. We said it.
I,
The point
I
is
loved your points.
yeah, I like what we said. I'm happy with it.
Okay, we'll end there. And everyone that's listening, thank you for tuning in. We're definitely taking in some wonderful comments, and please just reach out with directly. You can find our stuff in the show notes at the bottom. So if you need to reach out to us directly, I think the email and cell phones and stuff are there. So please feel free to leave a message, reach out to us. let us know what you'd like us to talk about. We're happy to do that. So thank you so much for listening, and I hope everybody has a beautiful week.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to Chaos2Cured podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please share it with everyone you know, and definitely like, follow, and subscribe. Certainly leave a comment if you'd like. Let us know what you'd like us to talk about the next time. Also, in our show notes, there should be direct links where you can follow us on our social media, as well as reach out to us directly. Thanks again, and have a great day. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on Chaos2Cured podcast are the speaker's own. All discussion is based on our own experiences. We do not and cannot guarantee the accuracy or completeness of any information. Chaos2Cured podcast cannot give medical or health advice. All discussion is based upon our personal experiences and meant for general and educational purposes. This podcast is not a substitute for professional help or for diagnostic purposes for yourself or another. Chaos2Cured podcast always encourages you to consult an appropriate professional.